These are arguably the most durable boots in the entire world that you can actually wear, because this is the Indy series that we did with Nick's, starting with the Indy 1 with the lineman patch and the toe cap. With the Indy 2s, we did the double rose anvil lineman patches we designed. The Indy 3s, probably the most popular and arguably the most rugged and most indestructible, with the double vamp, with the lace to toe and the lineman patch. Indy 4, my personal favorite, but everyone on Reddit did not like this because it didn't have vent holes in it, even though nobody wanted vent holes in it. This one's sick. And then Indy 5 prototypes that you can't see yet. Indy 3s launch on Thursday the 22nd, so get on the limited edition email list. Make sure you get a pair, early access, sizing guide, all that goes to the email list, so get signed up. Get yourself a pair of Indy 3s. There are 4 machines in the world capable of making a boot like this. They used to make boots like this back in the day, and they were some of the most durable, some of the hardiest, but some of the hardest to make boots in the world. And they slowly died off because of how much easier and faster Goodyear welt constructions were, stitch down, Blake stitch, and this style of construction almost completely went extinct until Goral got access to 3 of the 4 remaining machines in the entire world capable of making a boot like this. So we're gonna cut them in half, run through all of our tests to really figure out, is this style of construction actually more durable? Why did it slowly die out to Goodyear welt and stitch down these other styles of construction? Is it worth bringing back? And ultimately, how is it done? Because I still am not fully sure how this all works. We're gonna have to really tear it apart and dig into it. But more importantly, why people still claim to this day it's the most durable way of making a boot ever. So what are these boots that are so rare? Well, the brand is Goral. The style is the Buxton Brass Wire construction boot. They weigh 2 pounds, 6 ounces. They retail for $523, and they're made in England. And the way they position this product is made with unparalleled craftsmanship and rooted in rich tradition of boot making. Constructed using a brass wire machine, one of the oldest and most durable techniques in the world, these resolable boots are designed to endure and last a lifetime. The soles are attached with a 3 BUSM rapid standard brass wire screwing machine, of which only 4 exist in the entire world, 3 of which are made in the workshop that makes this boot. And the 4th is believed to be in New Zealand. Of all places. And when we get to the construction, we'll start going over how this is made, but that's that one thing that makes it so unique that we've never seen before. I don't know if you'll ever see it again. And so let's start going through the details, starting with the leather first, because this is one of my most favorite leathers. This is Horween's ChromXL. It's a green color. Well, I just love the smell of it. Horween packs so many conditioners and oils and tanning compounds into their leather that it almost oozes conditioner. It's almost sticky to the touch. And because of that, you know, going back to the Boondockers, that Horween got the exclusive contract to make the leather for the Boondocker boots in World War II, it's almost the exact same formula. And if you remember from that video, you can still bend it, you can crease it, it still acts as if it's brand new leather. It comes in at 2.5 millimeters thick. We look at the cross section, you can see plenty of the grain left in there. We did the burn test to really show you how much of that wax and oil has to burn off first before the leather starts burning. And the puncture test did surprisingly well at 172 pounds. So one of my favorite leathers in the world. It's a durable leather, it's a heritage leather. Then if you look at the inside of the boot, it's super simple construction. It's got a half sock liner with what feels like a little bit of foam underneath, unlined in the quarters, and has a fabric or a synthetic lining in the vamp. And so very old school heritage construction, because most of what you're actually standing on is that really thick leather veg tan midsole. And it looks like, because if I bend the upper down, it looks like you're not standing on the midsole, but it's another layer of an insole. But that's part of what makes this boot so unique, because it's technically a triple midsole, because you have that 5 millimeter veg tan, 3 millimeters of what looks like leather board, and then 5 more millimeters of veg tan for the other midsole. And then on the heel stack, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of veg tan leather in the heel stack. And now you can start to see those little brass wire screws or nails, or like I said, I don't even know exactly how. I don't know if they screw in or what. And as for the outsole, this is a day-night logger outsole. And this, you know, it's not a true logging style outsole has that vibrant V100 with the huge lugs, but it's a similar pattern that's probably made to look more like a logger while giving you some of the grip of a logger, but the lower profile of a more casual boot. It's 5.5 millimeters thick, but it's so hard. This is harder than even like the hardest work boot logger style outsoles. Comes in at an 85 short A. So it's gonna still give you grip because it's rubber, but because it's so hard, it's not gonna be quite as grippy, but it's gonna be extremely durable, which is important because it's a little bit on the thin side for a logger style outsole. But I really appreciate the fact they went with a half sole, so you have that brass wire exposed, so you can actually see and show, oh yeah, that's where they drive them through, or maybe they come through. I don't actually know yet, to be honest. And they took it even further by doing some solid brass screws in the toe and in the heel, very reminiscent of like the really heavy duty work boots like the Pacific Northwest work boots. But now to the most interesting thing and the most important part of this, the brass wire construction. Because like I said, it's attached with the 3 BUSM rapid standard brass wire screwing machine, There's only 4 left in the entire world. And so they must have to machine any part that gets worn out, and they must have to slowly replace parts of the machine as it ages, because these machines are like decades and decades old. And the way it works is the brass wire is drawn from a giant spool of brass wire, then it's threaded through the sole, insole, and the leather upper, creating an exceptionally strong and durable bond. And they say this technique is far older than the Goodyear welt, and it's one of the most reliable methods for sole construction. So my understanding of that is it's almost like a nail gun, but instead of individual nails, it's a spool, and then it cuts it off almost when that nail goes all the way through. But I don't know if it crimps over like a clinch nail does with like a more traditional way of attaching layers, or if it like screws in. I don't know if it's just a straight, like if it's a straight wire of brass or how it's all attached in there. So to really understand that, let's cut this thing in half and really start pulling apart the layers to pull one of those actual brass wires out to see what it looks like, how it attaches, and how it stays fastened. Because to me, it would just seem like if it's just a wire, over time that wire would just loosen up and the layers would come undone. So let's cut them in half, dissect it, and really figure out what's going on with this. Why do people love veg tan leather so much? Patina, look at this thing. So this used to be this exact color right here. And over lots of wear, lots of use, slowly absorbing all your oils and sweat and dying in the sun, it turns into a beautiful caramel color. And guess what? One of our favorite brands that we worked with in all these collaborations, Goral, worked out with Miriam, one of the top tanneries in Italy, to make a very cool veg tan leather. And we convinced them to make a pair of smugs out of that veg tan in very limited quantities. Let me just show you the picture actually. They look so sick. So they're releasing these 3, and one of those is a pair of smugs. That has nothing but patina potential. Same basic color, but will end up looking like this after a year. And after a few years, it'll be really dark, really beautiful, and super limited quantities. They're launched already, so if they're not gone, go get a pair. So if you want a real patina machina, get yourself a pair of the Miriam Veg Tan Smugs. So check it out below. All right, we got it cut in half, and huge thanks to Goral for sending this in, because it is a really unique boot. I doubt we'll ever see a boot ever made like this again, at least in the modern era. There might be some historical and vintage stuff we can find, but this is really quite the unique thing, because think of how easily it would have been for 4 of those machines just to drift off into obscurity, for them to break down and someone's like, that's worth like 500 bucks in scrap metal, I'm just gonna scrap it. You know, this boot rightfully shouldn't even exist, if we're being honest. And so the fact that we're able to go through this and analyze it and look at it and figure out how this actually works and tell the story of this machine that built this boot, you know, it's almost like those historical boots where we get to reserve a little piece of history, immortalize it on YouTube. So thank you guys for your support. Help out this video, give Goral some support for reviving this super old way of building boots. So now, let's see what's inside. What do we have? Well, an ungodly amount of layers of leather. You got that insole layer, you got the cork filling, you got a wooden shank, veg tan midsole, the leatherboard midsole, the veg tan midsole, the rubber outsole, but we didn't cut through any of those brass wires. which I thought we'd be able to hit one of them. So I think what we're gonna have to do is I'm just gonna start tearing this apart, and let's see, first of all, how strong it is, but also to figure out if we can pull one of those brass wires out and really figure out how it holds all those layers together. But one really cool thing, which I don't think is the brass wires, we cut through a brass screw right there, and a non-brass screw right through the middle of that outsole. But that's also not one of the brass screws from the bottom. So maybe that is the brass wire? I don't know. We're gonna find out. Let's start doing it. Let's start getting this thing torn apart. Okay, I couldn't tear it apart by hand. So I went and got a chisel, a hammer, some pliers, a knife. So let's start chopping away at this thing and see if we can get it to come undone. Or at least pry it apart. Yeah, so I'll try first. Just try prying it. I have to try from the outside and wedge it in from here. It doesn't help that I have the tiniest little ball peen hammer. I have like 500 of these. One day we're gonna figure out how to get rid of 500 of these little baby hammers. Okay, I think I got at least the insole layer pried up. I'll try to finish it on screen for you. They weren't wrong, it is very durable. Oh, there's more than just, look, there's little nails that are not the brass either. Oh, I was wrong. So it is like a little screw, actually. Whoa, I thought they were literally just a brass wire. It's like they take the brass wire, and as it goes through, it must spiral and create like a screw. So it's like a screwed construction with like a never-ending brass screw that you can adjust probably the depth and the height of. What the heck? This video just came way cooler. I thought it was literally just a brass wire. Tell you what, they have a ton of these little tacks I keep ramming my fingers into. I honestly think they're right. I think this might be one of the most durable ways to build a boot, because this is not easy to tear apart. Those little threads, they hang on to the material really well. It's like the difference between a nail and a screw, right? See, if it was just a nail, it wouldn't hang on to the material like that. Oh my gosh. And you can't pull the nail out because it's like a screw or it's threaded in. For sure ruined this chisel. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's because I'm at the heel. Look how many more nails there are in the heel. Yeah, I'm not gonna try that. So, that's the answer to the question, I guess. Because that is very durable. That's like screwing a boot together with a solid brass screw that's the exact length and depth that you need. It doesn't seem to even need it doesn't need like a cap on it at all, because it's so threaded that it really grips the material. Like I'm out of breath from just tearing apart half of a half. And so the brass wire must be like threaded before it goes into the boot. And it must not screw through the boot, it must just push through the boot, and that leather, as it's getting pushed through, it expands, and then once it's done moving, it shrinks back over. Because leather's fairly elastic. And so is it more durable than a Goodyear welt? Gosh, sure feels like it. You know, in terms of like initial tearing, definitely pretty tough. You know, ripping apart thread is a little bit easier, but keep in mind, it's a whole boot. But I think the real strength in this is over the long-term wearing of the boot. Because brass, it wears down at a similar rate to leather. It doesn't rust like steel does. It's not gonna rot like cotton will or other thread will. It's not gonna UV rot. You know, over the long term and over decades and hundreds of miles worth of wear, I think they're right. I think it is probably more durable than any of the sewn constructions. Because you can see the cross section, I thought for sure this was not one of the screws, or not one of the brass wires that we cut through. I thought it was just a different screw. But you can see the whole cross section actually right there. And the fact that they were able to revive this, that is crazy to me, because we could have easily gone without ever understanding the style of construction, without ever really knowing what that cross section looks like, how it attaches, how durable it actually is. But because Goral went out and found out those machines, they did it. So huge shout out to Goral. That is one of the cooler boots that I've ever cut apart. I doubt we'll ever cut apart another boot built like this, unless, you know, I might collaborate with them. Yeah, they essentially took, how many screws are in here? Just from the one half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. There's probably upwards of like 50 to 75 brass wire screws holding this entire boot together. Most boots, if you try to sew through an inch of material, there's not a sewing machine in the world that's gonna sew through this much material. But a brass wire machine can clearly push through all that material plus some. And so that's probably where you really see the true strength of this, is you're able to combine an inch of material with literal screws in a way that thread would never be able to sew through, and it won't last nearly as long. That is insane. So huge shout out to Goral for letting me do this to one of the more unique boots that we've ever seen. So if you do want a pair of one of the more unique boots in the entire world, made on one of 4 machines, be sure to check out these boots from Goral, and thank you guys for supporting these videos and supporting these brands, because that's the only way we have the ability to dissect and pull these apart layer by layer to show you exactly the pros and cons, the benefits, and an almost extinct style of construction that there's only 4 machines left. So thank you guys, see ya. And